Did 3 weeks in a row lucky? Is it that kind of luck that we're talking about here? What are we really talking about here, Tommy?
Well, let me recap. This is now the beginning of our 4th week. This is our 16th show. We just completed 3 full weeks. We've picked 18 games in the first 3 weeks, and we've won 17 games. We're 17 out of 18. Now, obviously, that's a ridiculous percentage.
It's ridiculous. It's unheard of. And let's face it, a lot of people can say, well, I don't really believe you did 17 out of 18, whatever the hell it was. I don't really believe you did. Really, if you don't believe it, go back to the podcast and listen to every one of them on placeyourbet.vegas. The link is right at the top of the page. You can't miss it. Click on it, listen to the episodes, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Or better yet, you'll hear what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I love it. placeyourbet.vegas has all of our podcasts. You can stream us live 8 p.m. every night, and you can go back and you can look at our picks and see what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And you can't listen. You can't BS. You can't lie here. We're picking games.
No, man, this stuff is out there for everybody. And if you don't believe it, go check it out. And believe me, folks, this isn't something that we're not saying. Well, we have this information, and we say this every show because it keeps being that way. It's not about having certain information. It's about watching the money, but more importantly, knowing how to watch the money.
Well, this is the thing. You've been using terms now, and I've been following this closely. And we've been, you and I have been betting for years, and they don't call you Sal the bookmaker for nothing. I've been doing this thing since I was 10 years old. I grew up in a bookie family also. The thing is, we don't promise insider information, and I think that's a thing of the past. And we've talked about this constantly over the last few weeks. We're not coming to you saying we know what's going on behind the scenes. We know who's injured. We know who's fighting with the coach. We don't say that. We're using different terms like this. And I've been following you. You use a term called the hook a lot. The hook, you talk about that extra half a point. That's helping you lay down your action. You talk about the money flow. You talk about following the money. Now, a lot of times when you're getting down to the end and you're picking these teams, you're not talking about, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to outdo Kirk Cousins. You're not talking about that. That's last week in the Green Bay Minnesota game. You used the hook. In the Ohio State game, especially, it went up to 4.5, and that's what put you over the edge on that game.
Right, and it's because I had that extra half a point. Let's face it, a lot of times you'll see that 27-23 type of game. You'll see the 21-17 type of game. And you're like, oh, damn, the line's 4.5. Man, I lost by a half a point? How does that happen?
And that's what you're on. And I love this.
Right, so I want that half a point in my favor because most of the time the odds makers, they got it right because those are the ones with the, quote, information that everybody claims that they have when they really don't, because the odds makers are moving the line based on the money based off of that information. That's where that whole information idea comes from. But more importantly, it comes down to where is the money coming from, where's it going, and when you get audited by the IRS, all they care about inflow and outflow. They don't give a damn anything else. They want to know where to come from and where to go to. And that's what the bookmakers want as well.
This is what you're doing right now. This is what you're doing to the action. I got to tell you.
Exactly.
So this is what you're doing.
And folks, for everybody watching this live on Facebook Live, guess what? You can't hear the sound effects that Tommy's got on the control board because I don't have headphones to put next to this phone anymore. Okay. That's okay, though.
But our audience at AM 1400 KSHP can hear the sound effects, right? So we're good there at least.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So listen, aside from the betting action, just as sports fans, we are sports fans, what happens a lot of times is you talk, and this has been happening for years. I've known you now for years. We did a show a couple of years ago. We got back together. We were doing this Place Your Bet for a few weeks. But even when we weren't doing a show together, you'll talk about who you like during the week. And then on the weekends, I get these text messages. Hey, how about New England? Hey, how about Ohio State? And I love this because I forget. Because I tell you, when you're telling me who you like, you're not always talking about the players or the defenses or the coaches. You're using a different dialogue. And I forget. I'm like, oh my God, he did. He was all over that game. And I don't know how you do that.
Well, and you always say, well, how come he's not saying any names? How come he doesn't mention any players? I don't know. Ask Nate Schmidt. We got Nate Schmidt with us today. And he's actually, it's Nate on a popsicle stick. For all you people at Facebook Live, you can see this. I got this as a giveaway on Friday afternoon's game for the Golden Knights. But I got to tell you, this is about what? It's about watching money. I don't care about this player, that, but nobody cares. The money doesn't give a damn. You know what really matters? is who has more money where.
Absolutely.
Because remember, the casino, they want as even money distribution as possible, right? So they're going to try to distribute the money, the odds, I should say.
And why? Explain that.
Well, because if they distribute the monies evenly, or if they get bets evenly, that means they don't give a damn, because they're getting their profit, man. They're getting their 10%. They got the VIG every time. It doesn't matter.
Our neighborhoods, the casinos, they don't call it the VIG, but our neighborhoods in Oak Park, Chicago, in Rome, New York, our neighborhoods, we grew up with the term the VIG.
Right.
We grew up with that, right?
Exactly. That's the vigorous.
Yes, the vigorous, right?
Right. For everybody that doesn't know, especially for the Raider fans, make sure you tell them, go to. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. Just make sure you go to Google and type in vigorish. If you don't know how to spell it, too bad.
Yes.
Do a sound piece on it, and then you'll understand what it is.
Okay, but just as fans of the games, you grew up in the Midwest, I grew up in the East Coast. As fans of the games, let's just talk about the games aside from the betting action. The Ohio State-Michigan game was a big game, clearly. Michigan was in the top 4 in the college football poll, right? The playoff poll. They were in the playoff picture. If they could have beaten Ohio State and Northwestern, they were probably in. But what happened? I mean, is Michigan ever going to beat Ohio State again? What is going on with this school?
Well, that is Harbaugh's house of horrors. That would be the horseshoe.
Okay.
I mean, Michigan hasn't won there since 2000. It's been 18 years since they've won there. And why in the world would that make a difference? Because every team is different. Well, guess what? It's something in the players' heads. When you're recruited to go to Michigan, your goal is to do what every year? It's to beat Ohio State, period. Everything else is a bonus. And the same thing if you go play for the Chicago Bears. Your job is to beat the Green Bay Packers. That's it. Everything else is a bonus. If you won 2 games all year and you beat the Packers both games, you've had a winning year. That's how it works.
And Harbaugh, it's not just his house of horrors. He's not beating Ohio State and Michigan in the big house either. He's 0 for 4.
Yeah.
He was 0 for 3 against Michigan State. He finally beat Michigan State. But clearly Harbaugh is struggling with the 2 rivals. Right now he's a combined 1 for 7 in his 4 years there. So he's going to win. He's won 10 games. Now they're going to be in a bowl game. They're going to be in the Citrus Bowl or the Chick-fil-A
They should
Bowl
be in the toilet bowl! Exactly.
I agree.
After that performance.
That was terrible. This is what they get right now. That was terrible.
Yeah, those guys were pretty bad. And I mean,
62 points, Sal.
But so it was 62 points, but it was a hell of a lot closer than that in the first half. We saw.
Yes.
And you're seeing some really bad plays and some mental mistakes by Michigan. And maybe it was a little bit of case of the nerves. And this is exactly what I was referring to last Friday when we were talking about the game coming up. And that's why I wanted that half a point. Because I was good with the idea of Ohio State and 4.5 or better. Had to have that hook. Go ahead.
We talked about the big games. You know me, I love the big games. I'm not much for the Power of 5 or the Gang of 5 conference or whatever.
The Group of 5.
Group of 5.
The Gang
I'm
of 5.
not much for that. You know me. I'm all for the Power 5 conferences. So now I'm always talking to you about Auburn and Alabama. I'm like, Sal the bookmaker. We talked about Auburn and Alabama. Now, Auburn was getting 24 points, and I said, hey, man, it's a rivalry game. 24 seems like a lot of points.
Yeah, but I asked you, where do they play?
That's where I'm heading. You said, where's the game? I said, it's in Tuscaloosa. I said, it's in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And then you said, I don't care about the name of the stadium. You're always going to give me the business.
Damn right.
But, right? So you called this game. I like Alabama because they're at home.
Right. And that was it. That was it because, look, if it was in Auburn, now Auburn has some magical games at home, but I got to tell you, when that game is played in Tuscaloosa, buddy, that's a whole different animal right there.
You were on it. You were on that cover 24, and, of course, you were on the Ohio State game, right? So the big games you're on,
and the
too.
Central Florida game,
Well, I
too.
was going there.
Yes!
Give me a minute. Okay,
Yes!
let me.
I want Central Florida. I mean, even though they lose Mackenzie Milton, but guess what?
They're getting the gong of approval for beating me to the punch. Sal's quick.
Gong of approval. This guy, okay, for everybody at home, you can't hear his gong of approval. He's always playing with it on the other side over there.
Hey.
So I have no idea what you're doing with your gong, but just keep it off the microphone.
It's a good thing. You got it. It's a very good thing. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. It's part of the show. It's going to be a regular part of the show. So ease up on the gong of approval, buddy.
The gong of approval. Whatever.
I was heading there with Central Florida because now the top 4 in the college football playoff has changed. Right? The top 3 all won. Bama won convincingly, Clemson won convincingly, and Notre Dame, they were down 10-0.
Yeah, but Notre Dame needs to play another game. It's not fair. This is complete BS.
I agree.
Notre Dame should play somebody. I don't care if it's the runner-up to the Toilet Bowl conference.
I totally agree.
They need
But
to
they're
play.
done.
And then that's BS.
And they're in,
Yeah.
right?
Why do they get to be
It is
in?
BS.
Yeah, they don't have to play a conference champion, or they don't have to play a game like that, and that's a bunch of garbage. Notre Dame needs to be playing another game to earn their way in. Other teams got to play 13 games.
Okay.
And guess what? They don't have to.
We're in 100% agreement there, and this is, I'm going to emphasize, 100% right there with Notre Dame, right?
I can't really. There you go. I'm trying to get it so everybody at home can hear it too.
Okay.
But that's all right. It doesn't matter.
So Notre Dame is in now. Their season is done. They
Yeah.
they came back and they beat USC. I mean, USC was up 10-0 and they were playing well, but USC is a mess. Because I told you a couple weeks ago that USC and Notre Dame, they recruit a lot of the same players. So Notre Dame dominating those games doesn't help USC's recruiting. Notre Dame's going to get the top players. So now they're in. So that only leaves. Now Michigan's out. Obviously Michigan's gone. Adios muchacho. Right? So now who's in? Georgia's probably going to move into the top 4, but they're not guaranteed to stay there. Oklahoma has a shot now, right? They beat West Virginia. They got one loss. And Ohio State moves back into the picture because they got one loss. So they're going to have to play Northwestern. They can win the Big Ten Conference. But University of Central Florida is the 4th team in that conversation now. Washington State, adios. West Virginia, adios. Michigan, gone. So now you got Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Central Florida. They have a chance for this poll now, and I'm with you on this.
Well, I think they should, but here's the problem. If Ohio State doesn't lose, they'll be in the rankings above Central Florida, which is a bunch of nonsense. If Texas beats Oklahoma, Texas eliminates Oklahoma from the Final Four, if you will.
Right.
Right? And so,
Right.
and what do we have left? Now, look, Notre Dame doesn't have a better schedule than some of the other clubs for sure. I think their strength of schedule is weak. So people say, well, Central Florida's weak. I don't know. Anyway, folks, let's come back on the other side with this.
We have a little time.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I've got the clock right here. We have
You
a little
got
time,
one more
yes.
minute. Okay,
We're good.
so
We're good.
hold on. So the idea that
But no, we can't talk about Notre Dame. They're in.
No.
They're not an issue right
I
now.
know, but my point is this. If you're going to argue against Central Florida, then you have to use a similar argument. Hold on, don't shake your head. You have to use a similar argument because Central Florida has played ranked teams. And remember, their schedule, their strength of schedule, it really is no worse than Notre Dame's. And they'll be undefeated. So if you're going to take
But I'm
Ohio State
arguing
over them.
for Central
I
Florida.
know, but if you're going to take Ohio State over them, let's say hypothetically they beat Northwestern, which they probably won't. Northwestern's going to get the upset, in my opinion. But then again, if all these things fall into place, they're still going to keep them out of the picture. Anyway, folks, we're going to be back in just a few minutes here on Place Your Bet. I'm Sal the Bookmaker. Don't go anywhere.
Good job there, buddy.